All right.
All right.
Thanks for the notification. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kajal Malkin, and I am the owner and provider at Care For Me Clinics. I'd like to welcome Tracy. And with Tracy, she is the owner of Firefly Counseling. And together we actually created this presentation for you called Stress and Health. So first of all, thank you for bearing with us while we had some technical difficulties, but we got this rolling and we're ready to start.
Absolutely. So yeah, like we were just talking about, today's presentations on stress and health. Really our kind of goals in talking together and just like learning about each other's business was understanding how our two pieces go together and how we can work together, and realizing that stress and health they really go hand in hand. So we just really want to kind of get the word out, and especially during this busy holiday season that we're coming up to, of how you can take care of yourself, how you can take care of your health physically, but also mentally too. So that was really our big kind of goal going into this. So we'll get rolling. So we kind of did our introductions already. I'm Tracy Keller, owner, clinician at Firefly Counseling based out of Tosa.
And I'm Kajal Malkin, and I am a physician assistant for Care For Me Clinics right here in Brookfield.
Awesome. So we'll jump into things. So what is stress? I feel like that's a big question. And I think if you stop and think about it, it's kind of a hard thing to like objectively define. Stress falls under the category of anxiety. If we look at like big emotions, anxiety is a super adaptive feeling that we have. No one really likes to feel it, but it's super adaptive, because anxiety, if you think about it, keeps us safe. It keeps us from walking off the top of a building, right? Hi, that doesn't feel safe. It also keeps us from going to the grocery store with no pants on, right? It keeps us emotionally safe too. So anxiety, stress kind of go hand in hand, because both of those things help us be productive, help us stay safe. So stress is an adaptive, positive feeling that we have. So there's a lot of negative connotation around stress, but I really want, from my message today to be that stress isn't a bad thing. We just have to find ways to kind of manage it. So move along here. So why does stress exist? If this is an adaptive feeling, right, then why the heck do we feel it's uncomfortable? So I like to kind of bring things down to like the bare bones of like history of like humanity, right? So if we're nomadic people living off the land, why would anxiety, why would stress be helpful for us to experience? Let's think about it. There's a lot of dangers if we don't have big, beautiful houses we can live in, or safe buildings we can kind of wander into if we need to. If we're just living off the land, there's a lot of threats to us. So stress is actually adaptive in helping us create this fight or flight reaction in our bodies. So I use the example of a bear, which is why we have our fuzzy little friend on the screen, right? But if we were to walk through the woods, right, and have no anxiety or no stress, and we come across a bear, right, it's weird for us just kind of like, oh, there's a bear, I'll just keep mosey on through. No, like we have stress. Something's going to happen physiologically in your body to be like, hey, there's a danger there. This bear could maul my face off, right? It's important for us to feel that. So what happens when we come across a stressor in the wild, like a bear, right, is we go into this fight or flight mode. And this is a really adaptive thing. I almost explain it as like a megabot type of transformer thing that our bodies do. It's really neat. So ultimately, we have hormones that release in our brains, right? Most of the times cortisol, adrenaline are the two big ones. But that kind of is like the general in our army that kind of like tells our body what to do. And that general says, hey, lungs, start pumping some air in here. We need to get some oxygen to this blood, right? Our heart starts to pick up so that we start getting oxygenated blood pumping through our entire body. This is going to help our muscles perform better. It's going to help us fight that bear. It's going to help us get the heck out of there. It's going to do what it needs to do to kind of get us where we need to be for safety. There's other things your body does that you probably don't even realize happen when you're stressed out. Your pupils dilate. This is so you can see a little bit better, right? You're seeing acutely, you're taking in all your surroundings, all your senses kind of heighten a little bit so that you can be that much more prepared to respond to the stressor as you need to. There are certain things that hormone general also does within your body. It tells certain systems just to like shut off. We don't need you right now. Anything GI, intestine wise, processing food, you don't need to do that if all of your doing in survival mode is to fight this bear or run away from this bear. So your GI shuts off, right? This could mean like, oh crap, I have to go to the bathroom really quick. Or like, I'm not going to the bathroom for a while now, things aren't moving. Or I just have my stomach hurts, right? So a lot can be happening that way. So I talk this through because I really want you to understand that there's a function, there's a purpose for this. But the purpose it doesn't make sense in today's world. So in today's world, right, stress is kind of developed. We're not living off the land. We're not constantly feeling stressed from bears or other dangers or threats. We may from time to time, and that's helpful and conducive for us. But for instance, it's not helpful for me to have a flight or fight reaction if I'm stuck in traffic, right? I'm sure you've seen some people who have a fight reaction in traffic, and it's not conducive, right? It's not helping anyone honking your horn. A flight reaction when I'm at the grocery store, right? It's not going to be helpful if I'm stressed out waiting in line to just like go run out of here, right? So the day-to-day stressors aren't necessarily like being attacked by a bear. They're more things that we just have to find ways to manage. The other piece of this is like, think about the era that we live in right now with COVID, right? How many people have had to figure out how to parent at home and teach at home and work from home and all of these different pieces? The stressors aren't necessarily things that we need to avoid, run away from, or fight, right? They're things that we need to kind of figure out how to navigate. So I think that's the main purpose in kind of our talk today, is really to kind of get you to see what's going on for yourself. So instead of, pathologizing it, making it sound like a bad thing, it's like, oh, of course this is happening, and here's how I'm going to manage it. So we'll move on to some of the health pieces of health and how it impacts you. Oh, wrong way. Boom.
So stress, there's acute stress and there's chronic stress. Now, acute stress is that single episode, single stressor, and having that single stressor is actually very beneficial for your body. It puts you into action. It gets your fight or flight system moving, motivates you, energizes you. But when that acute stress is consistent and it doesn't change, and you're not actively managing it, that's when it turns into the chronic stress. And then the chronic stress is a lot different. It's actually more harmful for your body, and everything is happening internally, so you don't realize internally what different parts of your body are going through when it's consistently put under stress and that it's not being managed properly. So we'll go to the next slide. So here's your human body. And here is literally a snapshot of what the chronic effects of stress do to the body. So I did pick a couple of areas in the body, the important areas. Talk about the brain. When you are stressed out, you feel more fatigued, more tired. You can't concentrate as well. And you're a little bit more easily irritated and upset about things. If you look at your heart, when your arteries get more narrow, you're putting more strain on the heart. So your blood pressure is going to increase, which in turn can put you at higher risk for developing heart attacks. And so that's what stress does to the heart. Going down to the intestines, like Tracy said before, your gut system is trying to figure out what's going on. So then you won't absorb the foods properly like you should be. And then you'll be having these issues of constipation, diarrhea, nausea, that is all related to that stress. Joints, muscle, aches and pains, you're higher risk for osteoporosis and, more bone fractures. And definitely muscle protein breaks down. So your body is not as strong enough to handle that wear and tear. Obviously, skin goes through a lot of changes. Decreased skin tone, thinner, delicate skin, which means that you will be more prone to getting injured and more bleeding and more healing time. And then immune system. So our immune system is literally probably the heart and soul of the body. It is the one that's fighting off all the time. And when you're stressed out, Basically, your immune system is shutting down. You're going to be more prone to getting sick. You're going to be more prone to getting infections, and your recovery time is going to be much, much longer than if you were not stressed out. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And so here, Tracy and I are here to explain how to recognize these stress symptoms. And so we separated it into different categories. You have cognitive, so your brain, memory, memory impairment, you can't concentrate. You have some poor judgment when you're making some decisions. You're constantly worrying. That's what we look for in the cognitive side. Emotional symptoms, you're more depressed or you're more anxious, you're irritable, or you feel lonely and isolated. If you look at some physical symptoms, people have those aches and pains. They have the chest tightness or the chest pain, or their heart rate is increasing, like with palpitations. And then with behavioral, we have, so people react differently. So some people are going to eat more food. Some people are going to eat less food. And so that saying you hear, I am stressed eating, that is actually a thing. People find that it's a reaction that their body is asking them to put more food in. Some people actually sleep more, and some people just can't get any sleep. And that also takes a toll on the body. And some people just, out of fear, procrastinate in doing day-to-day activities. Tracy, you're muted.
Pardon me.
Yeah.
All right, now I'll get excited. So there's things we can do about this, right? It's not all doom and gloom. That's the main purpose of our talk today, is to let you know how to recognize it, but then like, hey, here's what we're going to do about it. So there are things that we can absolutely do to kind of manage the stress that we are under all day, every day. Some of the main things that we were just talking about, right? Healthy habits. Those are the main kind of components that we can kind of focus in on. And I think honestly, when we're stressed out, those are the first things that fall off our radar, right? Am I sleeping enough? Am I eating consistently? And am I getting enough exercise, right? Those are the big things that kind of fall off the radar. I think too, when we think about things that we can do to kind of help our brains within that stress, those are things too that we can really kind of work to navigate a little bit more to find the best ways that we can kind of cope with that. So ultimately, if we take those healthy habits and pair them with restoring mindfully, we're going to see that we start to feel better. We're going to see that our hormones actually shift, right? Instead of constantly having that hormone release, we actually give ourselves the chance for those hormones to kind of like dissipate through our bodies and not constantly be overwhelmed by those hormones, just constantly being stressed out over and over and over. It almost helps like ease those out so they can kind of get out of our system faster, as opposed to just compounding over and over and over in our bodies. So we're going to talk through a couple of different things we can do health-wise, and then I'll stop back in with some things we can do to restore cognitively as well in the next slide here.
So here the key thing is consistency. Consistency with sleep, consistency with eating, and consistency with exercise. And so let's take apart the sleep factor. If we're consistent with how many hours of sleep we get every night, we can manage that stress under control. So average number of hours an adult should get sleep is 7 to 9 hours. And actually a study was recently done that actually adults these days only get 6.4 hours of sleep a day, which is less than even the minimum of what adults could get. And so that lack of sleep would actually turn into not managing your stress symptoms properly. So a regular sleep routine, trying to go to sleep around the same time every night and trying to wake up around the same time every morning and consistently get that 7 to 9 hours of sleep. If we look at the exercise bit of it, so exercise has its benefits. Regular physical activity is actually good for the body, but it's also good for managing stress symptoms. So what exercise does is when you exercise, you release these hormones called endorphins. And endorphins are what we call the positive neurotransmitters that will actually cancel out that negative feeling. So if you ever feel stressed, if you ever hear it, there are people who like go feel so stressed out that they go and they work out and they feel so much better. It's because those endorphins are being released and canceling out that negative feeling. The more you exercise, you feel looser in your muscles and not as tight, because when you're stressed out, your muscles get all tight, and then that can lead to more injuries. So the exercise with yoga or cardio or strength training, that will actually help make those muscles looser. And eating is a huge thing. People find that when they stress eat, they kind of pick the wrong meals. They actually pick the sugar high meals, or they pick the extremely salty meals, and neither of those are very beneficial to us. So rule number one, you have to eat regularly. If you eat regularly, you get the metabolism going, and your body has a constant level of glucose. And glucose is actually something that your body needs, your brain needs to function for daily activities. So if you consistently are eating at a regular time, you are not having ebbs and flows of that glucose and no, so to speak, crashes. Foods that you should also look for is increase your omega-3. So the omega-3s actually help with brain function. So it helps you allow to focus more, concentrate better, and then obviously get more accomplished. Veggies are a great option. Veggies have those vitamins and minerals that are needed to basically cancel out those negative molecules from that stress. So it's good for fiber, and it's good for increasing the like neutralizing the negative molecules. And then decreasing the caffeine. So most people think, I don't get enough of sleep, I am just going to drink some coffee and perk up. Actually, coffee may look like it is helping you concentrate better, but it's actually just trying to fill the gaps. It doesn't do anything above and beyond. So if you do not get enough of sleep and you try to substitute that or compensate that with caffeine, caffeine is only going to do that part. It is actually not going to help above and beyond and make your stress or mood better. So in the long run, caffeine is actually more harmful than helpful. You're better off just picking the better foods, exercising, or getting the proper amount of sleep. So consistency is huge.
And I think within that, the first thing that we always say in like the therapy realm is let's make sure like our body's taken care of first, right? So before we slap a label on anything or assume it's stress or anxiety or something like that, let's take care of these first things to make sure that our bodies are where they need to be and are just functioning, because when our bodies are under stress because they aren't getting enough sleep, right? Or not getting enough food, or getting too much food, or not getting enough movement and exercise, then we can't manage the outside stress too. So first taking care of our body so that we have a strong vessel to then kind of go into these like cognitive or like thinking strategies or things we can do to kind of help restore mindfully. Once these three things are kind of taken care of, really the things we want to focus in are on mindfulness, right? Being here and present. Stress, anxiety likes to take us off into the future or back in the past of things that happen. And really we want to kind of slow our brain down and say, hey, where am I right now? What am I doing right now? What needs to be done right now? Is there anything that needs to be done? Because a lot of times there's not, right? We're stressing about things that may be happening in the future. There is research that shows that if you have a couple minutes of mindfulness within the day, so this is listening to a guided meditation, this is just sitting in silence for a little bit. Maybe it's taking a bath and doing nothing, right? Once we slow down, your brain starts to generate new pathways to think more positively, to think more clearly, right? When we're constantly on the go, our brain's like kind of heading down like a path that we've walked through all the time, right? The paths that are most walked on are the paths that are most clear to see. When we're telling you to slow down, right, it's almost like walking off into the wilderness, right? But the more we kind of walk off into the wilderness, the more we're going to like create a path that we can see more clearly. So slowing down, taking some time for yourself and creating some new pathways to just slow and center yourself. The other thing that I think a lot of us aren't really in touch with is just having moments of quiet or stillness so we can actually listen to our bodies and what do we want, what do we need to help us de-stress. I know I used to run a group and I would have everyone go around and everyone would say how they're feeling that day or something that's going on for them. And I would be so busy caught up in my work that I'd have to actually like stop and think like, how am I today? What feeling do I have? I have no clue. So when we create more quiet and stillness, we're able to tap into like, what do I really want? I think a lot of the times we feel like we're just indecisive when in reality, we're just not used to listening to our bodies and what our bodies want, you know? So by really kind of being intentional within slowing down and asking yourself, what does my body want? What do I want right now? What do I need right now? Right? We're better able to address the stressors as they come up for our bodies and spiritually just what we need. So those are kind of things we can kind of do. So creating some stillness, creating some slowness, slowing down is going to help kind of ease up those stressors as they come up. If we think about holiday stress that's coming up, do those presents need to get bought right now? I don't think so, right? Do we need to figure out our holiday Christmas plans right now? No. If you took a bath instead for a little bit, you could come back and figure out those plans later on. So just being able to slow down, taking care of yourself is kind of the big message for us today that we're trying to get across. So remember, what you're doing does impact your behavior, which in turn affects your health, right? Everything kind of affects everything else. You're a whole person. You have your whole life. You're kind of navigating before, after, future, all of this. But one small change can impact so much too. So that's positive or negative. So just really stepping back and looking at the small choices that we make throughout the day can really make a lot of change kind of going forward. Anything you wanted to add?
Oh, no, you covered it right.
Okay, awesome. So that concludes kind of the meat of our presentation today. We did have a couple questions that we were going to kind of go through. And if there are more questions, you guys are welcome to send them in the chat or get them to us other ways too, and we're happy to address them. So we'll just kind of go through these and we'll kind of navigate which one we answer first and that. So the first question we had was, how can you tell when stress moves from acute stress to chronic stress? So I don't know if you want to take that one.
Yeah, I can take that one. So it's hard to say when acute stress turns over to chronic stress because it varies from person to person. It's not a set amount of time like, oh, yep, 3 months, and then you get to the chronic phase. It's not like that. But it's more focusing on those chronic the symptoms of what you're feeling. So mentally, if you are feeling consistently that you're not getting enough of sleep, or consistently that you are not able to focus on activities and such, and it's not like a one-time thing. Consistently you're seeing it and you're noticing that how you're able to how do I say this? Like how you're able to function is slowly on the decline. That's a sign. A lot of these things are very subtle. So it's not like a light switch and you're on and off and you're like, oh yeah, I'm in chronic stress. But it is just focusing on your body and the changes that your body is going through. And there is no wrong answer. If you do feel like something is off, I urge you, go talk to your primary care provider or talk to your a mental health coordinator and just say, what I'm feeling, I don't feel it normal. Can you help me? And so that's the first step that I would recommend over there. And then we take the steps and the protocol afterwards to help.
Yeah. And the next question is pretty similar to, and I'll just kind of take it from my perspective as a therapist. So I'm having heart palpitations and shortness of breath at times. Could this just be stress? From a mental health perspective, like I said earlier, always get it checked out by a doctor or a health professional first. You want to make sure that what's going on isn't a biological sensation before we just assign it anxiety. Because if we're doing like support for like just your mental health, but your physical health is off, we don't want to miss some major signs that something else could be going on. Another question that came up, I'm having a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep. How can I ensure that I'm taking care of myself if I can't get the sleep that I need?
So I can take that. One thing you could do is just like your brain needs to be trained into a chain activity. And your brain likes consistency and routine. So if you don't have a night routine, like we currently with our children, we do have a night routine, right? Parents pick a certain time, and that's when they give their children a bath and, you know, dinner, and then bedtime story, and then lights out, and then go to bed. And so us as adults, that is very similar, except we don't really need to have the bedtime story and the nighttime shower. But hey, find a routine that is beneficial for you. And if I can give one rule, it is 1 hour before you plan to go to sleep, separate yourself from your phone. So set your alarms, your reminders, whatever needs to be. Do not disturb, turns off, emergency calls only, 1 hour before you go to bed. And that is your time where you're going to focus on you. When you step yourself away from that electronic and you're focusing more on you, the body can naturally work itself into that night routine, that sleeping routine, and you're able to go to sleep, and it's more restful. There was actually a study that was done that 33% of people pick up their phones in the middle of the night to read emails. So it's shocking that people actually do that in the middle of the night, because your body, your brain will think, oh yeah, it's time to get up. But actually, it's more harmful. And if you have this night routine before going to bed, these kind of activities will happen less and less as you keep consistent with that routine. And with any routine, it's not overnight. It will take a couple of weeks of consistent behavior to forge that routine into a habit.
Yep.
Tracy, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think consistency is just the biggest piece. So having a consistent bedtime, a consistent wake up time is going to help your kind of cycle throughout the day, so that your energy kind of figures out where it needs to be and how it can kind of optimize. I love what you said with the electronics. There's been research too that, you know, the things that kind of tell our bodies it's time to get up is movement, light, and food, right? So if you're doing those things in the middle of the night or during your sleepy time, that means that you're kind of telling your body, no, it's time to be awake right now. And there's been studies that show that the blue light from technology imitates daylight. So if you're picking up your phone at 3 a.m. to look at emails, you basically just open the shutter or the curtains wide open, and it's daylight, you know? So really kind of stepping back from those things and being intentional with what is this doing and how is this impacting my body and my sleep are things I would look at. You know, and like we were just talking about, it takes really like 15 days, I think, of consistent bedtime and wake time for your cycle to kind of change around to that being how you sleep. So if you're working like a weird, wonky, like sleep schedule too, working third shift, right? That may be something that you just have to kind of acknowledge is going to be a thing. And you're going to have to focus a little extra hard on how do I make sure I'm getting the rest that I need. But yeah.
Right.
The last question that we had was kind of a comment, but I tend to only have coffee in the morning, and it helps my stress levels and helps me just kind of start off my day. You know, just have a warm cup. You know, what's wrong with that?
Right.
So I don't know if you want.
No, you can take that one.
Yeah, so I think that, like we were talking about before, caffeine kind of is a replacement, right? It replaces what we need for just having good health, good sleep habits, all of those pieces. And realistically, if we're being blunt, caffeine is a drug, right? It's addictive, and its capabilities, what it does for our bodies. When it comes to the mental health realm of things, I don't think people recognize how much caffeine impacts stress and anxiety levels, right? Because what it's doing in your body is imitating that fight or flight response that I was talking about earlier, which makes us feel more alert and like we can be on top of things. But realistically, you're just creating the whole thing that we've been talking about, trying to kind of bring down that response and reaction. I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
No, I think you pretty much covered
Yeah.
it. So if something looks good in the short run, it's good to evaluate that to see if it's actually worth it in the long run. And caffeine is one of those things. Short term, it's great. Like that cup of coffee is gonna perk me up and I'm able to function because I didn't get a lack of sleep. But that consistently over time, if you notice, caffeine, and specifically we see it in coffee, and so people get their caffeine in coffee, and coffee is, in our medical terms, a diuretic, which is actually putting more emphasis on your kidneys. So I mean, I didn't talk about it earlier in one of the bodily functions, but the kidneys are a huge deal to our body, and pumping it with the fluid that has the caffeine is in the long run, again, more harmful than helpful.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I use that similar example when I'm talking about like positive and negative coping strategies and like giving examples. Like if I only ate fruits and vegetables for a week, what would my body feel like? Versus like if I ate only Doritos for a week, what would my body feel like? You know, so really like kind of blowing it up. You're not going to do that, but like what would probably be better?
Challenge. I've actually gone through the challenge where 1 week I ate really crappy. I was stressed out and I decided to eat brownies and cookies. And I could tell the next morning I would have more headaches because my glucose would shoot up and down and I'd just be more irritable and more grumpy. And then when I substituted, like, well, I'm just going to eat a banana, that's just a sweet. I just felt like after a week of clean eating, my body's like, oh, this is what it feels like. It's like a wake-up call. But again, it didn't happen overnight. I mean, you know, I started noticing little changes over a week, but I mean, just imagine the changes you could see and feel. Again, it's not like weight loss and look at the numbers on the scale. It's actually what you feel on the inside, which you're going to feel a lot more and see a lot quicker than actual physical changes.
Right. There's a question in the chat too that I think probably feeds off of this one. Can stress impact facial features like pimples or makes you look old? If so, can those be reversed?
Oh, yeah, totally. Yes. So stress can impact. If you remember a couple of slides ago, back to the body, the skin. We all have nice, tight skin. And as we get older, you know, our skin goes to that wear and tear. But as we get more stressed out and we're not able to control it, that skin gets wrinkly. It gets thinner, which will show, it will make you look like poopier. And yes, you will get more pimples because again, the hormones are all out of whack and it's, you know, the food that you're eating or you're not sleeping and all those combinations are making these skin changes more visible. And of course, it can be reversed, but just remember that the reversal time is not instant. It is going to take some time because it took that much time of that stress to show those features on your face. It is going to take a little bit longer for it to go. So the best things that you can do is, one, take out time for yourself. So at least 30 minutes a day away from your spouse, away from your children. Do what makes you happy. If that's working out at the gym, go for it. If that works out, if that is going for a walk, go for it. Just you and yourself, no podcast, no listening to other people, no other thoughts in your mind, and just focus on you. That's number one. Number two is eating well and developing a regular sleep routine. So if you are one that consistently has to go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, plan your day that I need to get 8 hours of sleep. So I better be going to bed by 11 p.m. so that I can work for that. If your schedule is different, adjust it so that you're still getting your 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And I think I already talked about eating. Just lay off the sugary items. From time to time, once in a while, it's okay, but consistently eating cookies and brownies and the empty carbs, I like to call it, consistently, it's not beneficial. So if you do that, at least you'll see a difference over time.
So if I take my half hour for my day and eat a whole box of Ho-Hos, that's probably not.
No. When I say take a 30 minutes to yourself, like you said, yoga or mindfulness or exercise in some forms or working out at the gym or walking, something where take everybody out of the picture. Who are you? That's what I want you to focus on in that 30 minutes.
Yep.
You're not a mother or father. You're not a son or daughter. You are a human being. And that's what you need to focus on first. Who are you? And guess what? Once you get that out and you know that, you can you can play those roles better of mom or dad or brother or sister or son or daughter. You can play all those roles a lot better. And all you need is to start off 30 minutes.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's all the questions that we had. So just want to, let us know. We're both really open to questions or anything you have after this. Our contact information is on the slide. I think we should post the slides afterwards. Do you think that works?
Yeah, we'll definitely post the slides, and
Yep.
we will definitely, obviously this is the last slide, so it has our contact information, and you can contact us. We're happy to help you guys out. We didn't do this in the beginning, but Care for Me Clinics is actually a family medicine practice, and its main focus is giving back to the patient and providing that personalized care, but at affordable pricing. So that's our goal. So, and mental health and stress and taking care of ourselves are huge factors and huge opportunities that we take to help with our patients. And I know that Tracy, if you want to take like a couple of minutes and just talk about your expertise and about your.
Yep. So Firefly Counseling, we offer counseling mostly for teenagers and women's issues, women's health. We do specialize in trauma and grief therapy. So if that's ever of interest, we have evidence-based practices that help or have been shown, clinically to be able to improve some symptoms that come up with trauma. So yeah, I know either of us, if anyone's interested in any of our services, we both do, free meet and greets, consultations. So feel free to contact us. And again, like I said before, if there's any questions or like you have a specific situation where it comes to stress, you can reach out to either one of us and we're happy to, answer any questions that are lingering from this. We'll also post this. There is a worksheet if you wanted to kind of go through and apply the information that we presented today with the worksheet. It's also posted in the event. So you should be able to go that. If you want to look at this again, we've been recording it. So we'll be posting it here and probably separately on both of our company websites too. But we appreciate everyone who's been able to log on and join us, or if you're watching this after the fact, we're glad you were investing this time in yourself and investing yourself in your stress management, your self-care.
Yes, thank you everyone. If you guys have any questions, you know where to reach us, and thank you for joining us. So we'll have everybody, you can all, we can stop the recording and leave.
I'm just making stop recording.